it's a sub to the question you had before. So correlation of time spent on compliance versus safety achieved. Is it something, Minister, that you have mentioned compliance cost and productivity, these terms? Is it something wrong if somebody is able to comply with what is needed by and also keeping the cost down and is able to achieve productivity or able to increase productivity? Is something wrong with that?
Oh, I think that's perfect. That's exactly what people should be doing under our system. You can have a highly functioning workplace, a high productivity workplace, while also focusing on keeping your workers safe from harm. And I'd make the point that with a lot of business owners that I've met over the last year and a half with this work program, they don't want to hurt their staff. They know that hurting staff is dreadful for their business and for productivity. And it's in everybody's interest that their workers are safe and coming to work, being able to be highly productive, going back to their families. Having workers injured is nobody's goal, and it's certainly not this government or business's goal. So it is possible to have a highly productive workplace while focusing on reducing worker harm. But where we have compliance for compliance sake, that does lead to unproductivity. It does lead to costs, time, resource, admin, HR. And I'll just give you one example. When I was doing the roadshow, I went to an industrial area of Auckland and talked to a woman there. And she said every month they have to go around their work site and ask people, have you had a paper cut? Have you had a staple incident? We need something to put in writing because our bosses are asking for us to get the paperwork to show that we're complying with the Health and Safety at Work Act. That's really unproductive work. That's not actually keeping anybody any safer. It's compliance for compliance sake to tick the boxes. And that's what this government is moving away from. Too much compliance, too much red tape, too much box ticking exercises. That's not leading to safety outcomes.
Cool.
Thank you.
You find out? Okay. Jan?
Great, thank you. So I've got a sub to what Tiano asked. It's probably, I'm going to wrap it into, there might be two. And I'm not sure that I heard an answer from you if you consider musculoskeletal harm a critical risk. I don't think that came through. So I'm really keen to follow up on that. And then what work is planned or underway at WorkSafe on musculoskeletal risk harm, given that WorkSafe's own research suggests it's the source of the most harm in New Zealand workplaces?
So I did address that question. I said we're not making an announcement today on what would be considered a critical risk. So I did address the question, Jan. To the second question, that would be a question for WorkSafe, which may be better addressed in your next session with WorkSafe, although I'm happy to bring them up if that's how you'd like to use your time.
No, I just want to have a follow-up then with that, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. From reading your cabinet paper, that's what the issue is at the moment, is that people are getting confused around this, knowing that it is causing the most harm in the country, in the WorkSafe. It is the source of the most harm in the New Zealand workplace. But reading your cabinet paper, it doesn't seem to meet that definition of critical risk. And I really want to get your, like you may say you've addressed the question, but people reading that cabinet paper are concerned around the fact that it doesn't seem to meet that threshold of that critical risk. So we want to sort of get some understanding of you and I guess assurance today that you're taking this very seriously.
Okay, I do take health and safety very seriously, which is why we're doing the entire reform. But like I said before, I'm not making an announcement in the committee today. You'll have to wait for that. I know you can't have it both ways. Either you want all of the work to happen extremely fast, or you allow for people to have cabinet processes that take time and allow people to have information in the public domain.
Yes, we want assurance that you're over it, Minister, and you're not giving us that assurance.
I'm not going to make announcements because you asked me a question, Jan.
Okay.
We have to wait for good process.
I've got a sup from...
Good processes when I don't have to answer your questions.
There was a part of the thing about paper cuts. Like, I'm not sure if a paper cut is something you have to report, but I definitely tell you, if you cut yourself in the knife, you have to report that. I've got to do that in my business, and I mean, it's not often we have to use the knife at my business.
It's very
I'm
silly.
not sure whether
it's not a critical risk.
I can tell you one thing. Well, I don't have to report it to WorkSafe. I just have to keep an accident log of it happening, and if something worse happens, such as, say, the person went into hospital needing a tetanus shot, or something like that, needing stitches, then yes, that would be...
Well, yeah, and the reason for that is because cutting yourself with a knife is a critical risk. You can die doing that. You can't die giving yourself a paper cut, unless of course, you get a staph infection or something crazy like that. But, I mean, but a paper cut on its own is not a critical risk.
No, I mean, reams of paper are a normal thing that you know, in an office, that's a normal thing to have. I mean, I think you'll have more danger with the staple remover than you would have with the ream of paper.
There's more danger walking up and down the stairs. Let's be honest. But yeah, I find the claim by Brooke Van Veldon, employers don't want to hurt their staff. Okay, I'm sure that's true in the majority of cases, but we cannot ignore that a lot of employers do want their staff to produce more per hour. That is how we operate under a capitalistic system. You produce more, you get more money. Now, that dynamic, right, as much as the employers don't want to see the employees get hurt, that does put workers in dangerous situations sometimes. And it can definitely put workers into situations that involve overexertion, which can result in poor mental health outcomes, right?
And for the case of driving, it's having people not taking that half an hour mandatory break at the 5.5 hour mark. Like that's it. That in the driving sense, anyone who's done long distance driving understands that completely.
Yep. And
you know, or anyone who does driving for a living.
I know this sounds stupid, but you can get hurt sitting down for long hours. You can end up with back problems.
That as well.
Yeah. And you can end up with blood clots if you're not careful. Having experienced blood clots myself, you've got to be very careful of that.
God, you're too young to experience that.
No. With my health conditions, having chronic pain, the way how my circulatory system works now from nerve damage has been altered. And that's from necrotizing fasciitis and having to go through multiple plastic surgeries. But anyways, but yes, again, the pressure from partial strike deductions is not going to help employers or employees keep the best interest of the employee's health in check, right? They're going to push to produce more in order to keep their job, right? We have got people that are losing their jobs. Then we've got job cuts. We've got people going off to Australia. Those partial strikes are not going to help with the psychological health of a worker. If anything, it's putting more increased pressure on workers to comply. It gets, at times, the interest of their own health and safety.
Yeah, and it might be, you know, I mean, if it's safe for driving, it's, you know, skipping that half an hour breaks or fudging your logbooks, that sort of thing there.
Now, these may not be deliberate intentions of the legislation that's been proposed, but these are the things you've got to consider when you're proposing legislation is the unintended consequences.
Is what happens when you got the bad employer who's going to go to the world class, the most stupidest thing in there as an extreme example without actually probably step back, actually doesn't affect the job.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
thanks a lot.
The best one I had was I got asked to come into work early by the owner of the business. I got there by the manager. I got told for wearing a Brotown t-shirt. All I want to do was go in there, go to the toilet, change into my uniform correctly, then start my job.
Yep.
But went on a tangent on a Brotown t-shirt.
Yep.
In my private time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, So, you know, you that could be misconstrued as a partial strike.
That could be,
And you do get those people who bark at you for something and then take credit as they've achieved something, even that they've done nothing to achieve the outcome because that all they've done is throw their weight around rather than actually, you know, achieved anything. But they may constitute it as, I told that person off, look what I achieved, even though you actually haven't achieved anything.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I having worked in the supermarkets, I've had bad managers that have lined up behind all the other customers just to shout at me. You know, it's like, you couldn't have done this after work. I'm trying to serve customers, you dipshits.
And actually, if they did it in front of customers, that can actually that would actually be as a factor that if there was a personal grievance or a second that followed it, it would be a contributing factor in the negative for the employer.
I did ask them. It's like, look, can we take this behind the scenes and not in front of the customers? Like, if you got a personal grievance with me, can we sort this out after work?
Yeah.
No, we're going to do this right here and right now. Why? What over? Because you used a tone that I didn't like. You stood in line and held up productivity just to tell me you didn't like my tone.
Yeah.
Come on. People get disrupt work for the dumbest reasons.
Oh, yeah, but that's probably because that's the wrong person who's been put into management.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the way society does go, is sometimes we actually do end up having the wrong people put into management, not the right people. And the wrong people are the ones that land the place into employment courts and that sort of thing, or create hostile work turnover. A good example in the United States is Costco versus Walmart. Walmart has a 70% staff turnover rate, whereas Costco has about a 7% staff turnover rate. And and one of the biggest drivers behind it is the fact that Costco pays their staff a living wage, whereas Walmart pays their staff minimum wage and suggests to fill the gaps as food stamps.
Yeah, that. I mean, anyone with a brain would go, "Fuck that! I'm working for Costco."
Well, yeah. On the other hand, and some people have tried to use that as shareholder. Some people have said that's been irresponsible to your shareholders, even though it actually delivers better results. Because some people only see bottom line dollars; they don't necessarily see the other minor stuff that comes with it. Because you can't sit down there and go, let's slash everyone on minimum wage and then not expect the shit to hit the fan.